Hey there, friend. It's a quiet night, isn't it? The world outside is shrouded in a soft, snowy veil, where the only sound you can hear is the gentle whisper of the wind and the crisp, cold air that seems to freeze time itself. Let's take a moment then to settle into this peaceful moment, the world gently falling asleep around us. Let the soft hum of winter lull you into comfort as we drift together into a world of whispers, secrets, and quiet power. The Triad Society you see is like the stillness of winter. It operates in the shadows, subtle and silent, yet holding influence over vast stretches of the world. Now, you might wonder, why would I invite you into a story about such a shadowy, elusive world? What could there possibly be that could bring such a tale to life, especially on a night as peaceful as this one? Well, that's the hook. This story isn't about loud, brash violence or gunfire in the streets. No, it's about power, quiet, hidden power, the kind that doesn't need to make a sound to control everything around it. And as we drift through this tale, I hope you'll find the calmness of the narrative not just soothing, but captivating enough to help you unwind and let your thoughts rest easy as gently as the snowflakes outside. Imagine, if you will, the world of the Triad Society. It isn't a world of chaos or shouting. It's more like the evening snow falling quietly from the sky, covering everything it touches. The Triads, an organization of immense power, operate much like this snow. Quietly unnoticed, they take control, weaving their influence in ways that most people don't even notice. They don't need to force their way through loud battles or public confrontations. Instead, they work in the background using subtlety, strategy, and trust to build their empire. And tonight, in this calm moment, we'll uncover their secrets. You may not have heard much about the Triads before. Maybe you've heard a name here or there, or perhaps seen a fleeting mention of them in movies or books. But this isn't just another story about a group of criminals. No, this is something deeper, more intriguing. We'll dive into the world of the Triads and discover how, in a world that seems so full of noise and chaos, there are people who thrive in silence. And what's more, they don't just survive, they dominate. The origins of the Triad Society go back much further than most people realize. Long before they became an international presence, they began in a time of great turmoil, in a world where people were oppressed and silenced. You may picture a group of rebels fighting openly in the streets, but that's not how the Triads worked. Instead of fighting with fists or weapons, the Triads built their empire in the shadows, in the quiet corners of cities where no one would think to look. Imagine them like the roots of a tree, growing deep into the ground, unseen but strong. Their structure is one that mirrors a family in a way. There are the leaders, the heads of the triads who guide everything with precision and care. They have their trusted members, those who are part of the core group. And then there are the initiates, the newer members looking to prove their worth. These initiates start by following the rules of the Triads rules that, like the frost on a winter morning, seem to touch everything and make their mark without ever needing to shout. In this quiet world, every decision is made with care. There's no room for mistakes in the Triad Society. Just like the stillness of winter, everything must be precise. Everything must be planned. In the warmth of their secret meetings, deep inside their hidden corners, they discuss their next move. They don't shout or argue, they simply know what needs to be done, and it gets done. But what exactly do they do? What is this quiet power that moves like a soft breeze in winter, unnoticed but all around us? The triads, much like the cold control, everything from the shadows. They're involved in a variety of operations, none of them loud, none of them flashy, but all of them incredibly effective. From money laundering to illegal businesses, they control vast amounts of wealth, and they do so without drawing attention. It's as if the world doesn't even know they exist, but everything still moves according to their will. Imagine walking through a quiet town in the middle of winter. The streets are empty, the houses silent. Yet beneath the surface, things are moving. Deals are being made. Lives are being influenced, and power is shifting all without a sound. That's how the triads work. They don't make a big show of their actions. Instead, they operate in a calm, deliberate way, like the snow that falls slowly but steadily over time until it's everywhere. The triads are masters of the hidden transaction, the kind where no one ever speaks out loud, but everything is understood. They meet in quiet corners, away from prying eyes, their deals sealed with nothing more than a gesture, a nod, or the exchange of a small token. There's no need for noise. They work is done in the quiet, in the stillness of winter nights. But like all powerful organizations, the triads also face their challenges. Even in the silence, there's tension. Tensions arise between the members as some seek more power or start to question the order. But these aren't battles fought with fists. No. In this world, everything is resolved quietly. A look here, a whisper there. It's like the soft rustle of wind through the trees, subtle, yet carrying weight. And then there are the outside forces, the police, other criminal organizations, and even rival triads. They may be more vocal, more active, but the triads don't panic. They don't shout or react impulsively. Instead, they continue to work in the background, moving with the flow of the world, always a step ahead. Their strength lies not in how loudly they act, but in how quietly they navigate the world, knowing when to move and when to stay still. In this way, the triads are like the snow falling on the ground. They blanket everything without ever being noticed. They remain ever present while the world around them carries on without realizing the depth of their influence. The triads aren't just about the organization, it's also about the people within it. Imagine being one of them just entering this world unsure of where you fit in. Maybe you thought it would be like the movies full of drama and danger, but instead, it's quieter, subtle. You start to understand the real power of the triads, the quiet conversations, the subtle signals, the unspoken agreements. It's a world that requires patience, tact, and an understanding that the loudest voices aren't always the most powerful. In this world, you learn quickly that it's not about how much noise you make. It's about what you can achieve without saying a word. The leaders of the triads know this well, guiding their members with quiet authority, never needing to raise their voice, but always getting results. As we come to the end of tonight's story, you might find that the world of the triads is not as exciting or fast-paced as you might have imagined. There are no explosive battles or loud confrontations. Instead, it's a quiet world of strategy and patience. A world that moves just like the snow, covering everything with a blanket of calm, making its presence felt without ever making a sound. Just like winter, the triads are here to stay, moving in the quiet spaces, always with purpose, always with control. And now, as you sit in this quiet moment surrounded by the calm of winter, let the story of the triads fade into the background like the last few snowflakes settling on the ground. Let it remind you that sometimes the quietest forces are the most powerful. Now, as the world outside settles even deeper into sleep, so too can you. Drift off knowing that in the quiet stillness of the night, there are always stories waiting to be discovered. Sleep well. You find yourself nestled in the comfort of a quiet, snowy night. The world outside is still, the air crisp, and the snow falls softly, covering everything in a blanket of white. But within this peaceful landscape, there's a story of quiet power that goes back centuries, a story that, like the winter snow, has quietly shaped the world without anyone even noticing. The Triad Society began long ago, in a time when oppression was everywhere. The people had been pushed to the edge, and rebellion seemed like the only answer. But instead of rushing into open conflict, they chose a quieter path. They didn't shout their defiance or wave banners. No, they chose secrecy and strategy. Slowly, methodically, and with great patience, they built their power in the shadows. Much like the way snow falls silently, these people moved without fanfare, letting their influence spread unnoticed. The origins of the Triads, then, are rooted in silence, in patience, and in a determination to survive, not by brute force, but through subtlety and quiet strength. As you listen to this story, imagine those early days when everything was uncertain and the world seemed on the brink of change. And yet, in the midst of it all, the Triads began to take shape, slowly building their empire in a way that no one could have predicted. As you drift deeper into the story, picture the people who founded the Triad Society. They weren't warriors marching to battle. They were quiet figures working in the shadows, carving out a place for themselves where no one else could see. In those early days, their goals weren't grand gestures, but rather the slow, steady gathering of influence. They didn't need to fight with swords or guns. They used whispers and alliances, patience and trust, slowly building a network that would one day span the globe. The world around them was harsh, filled with oppression, and every step they took was an act of defiance, though it never appeared as such. Imagine it, a small group of people facing overwhelming odds, choosing not to fight openly, but to bide their time, laying their plans in silence, knowing that every small move they made would eventually shape something much larger. They were not in a hurry, for they knew that great things often grow in quiet, unseen places. Much like the snow that falls unnoticed, building up over time, the Triads grew in power. At first, they were just whispers in the dark, just a rumor, a shadow passing through the alleyways of ancient cities. But as the years went on, the snow continued to fall, and the Triads became more than just a whisper. They became an undeniable force. Their influence stretched far beyond the shadows where they once resided, quietly creeping into every corner of society. And all the while, they maintained the quiet, steady rhythm that had been their hallmark from the beginning. Imagine how it must have felt to be one of them back then, walking through the world unnoticed, gathering power with each passing day. It wasn't a power that could be seen immediately like a roaring fire. It was a power that settled in like the snow covering the earth, subtle and unstoppable. They built their society not with loud proclamations, but with small, calculated actions, each one feeding into the next until they had a foundation that was unshakable. Like the quiet winter landscape, nothing could move them. Nothing could disrupt their steady, silent growth. And as the triads grew, they began to take shape, not just as an organization, but as a way of life. Their influence reached into every corner of society, from the marketplaces to the halls of power. Yet they remained hidden, always moving behind the scenes, leaving only a faint trace of their presence. Much like the snow, they didn't force their way into existence, they simply settled. And once they had settled, nothing could remove them. Now, let's step deeper into the world of the triads. As you sink further into your comfortable space, picture the inner workings of this quiet organization. The triads operate not like a traditional criminal organization, but more like a family. Within their ranks, there are leaders, those who have guided the society from the shadows for years. These leaders are respected, their authority unquestioned. But just like any family, there are also those who are newer, still learning the ways of the triads, trying to prove their loyalty and earn their place. Once you're in the triads, you're bound by a code. This code is not something you can ignore or bend. It is cold and unchanging like the frozen earth beneath the snow. There are rules, unspoken but understood ones, that govern everything the triads do. Much like the winter season, which seems to freeze everything in place, the rules of the triads are set in stone. No matter what, they must be followed, and if you choose to break them, there are consequences, swift and unyielding. So imagine yourself in this quiet world where the bonds of loyalty and trust are forged slowly like ice forming over water. You can almost feel the weight of the triad's code, heavy yet comforting, ensuring that everyone knows their place, their role, and the unspoken responsibilities they carry. As you sit back and let yourself sink deeper into the story, imagine the sense of belonging that comes with being part of this tight-knit society. It's a world where silence speaks volumes, where the smallest gesture carries immense weight, and where loyalty is not given lightly. The triad, much like a family, operates on a foundation of mutual respect. But in this family, respect is earned, not given. You must prove yourself time and time again. Every action, every decision you make is scrutinized. And yet there's a quiet comfort in it, a sense of security in knowing that the rules are clear, unwavering, and inescapable. The code, though silent, is all-encompassing. It is the very air the Triads breathe. It's in every glance, every handshake, every whispered word. There is no ambiguity in it. You don't need to ask what's expected of you. You simply know. The weight of it is heavy like a layer of frost on the ground pressing down on everything it touches, yet in its weight there's a sense of stability. It gives you something to hold on to in a world that can often feel unpredictable. The Triads have their own quiet rhythm, and once you learn it, you'll find that it's not so much about surviving as it is about understanding how everything fits together. But like the ice that builds up over winter, the deeper you go into the Triads, the more you begin to realize the true cost of this loyalty. It's not enough to simply follow the rules. You must internalize them. Every action you take is not just for yourself. It's for the society as a whole. It's a bond that goes beyond friendship or even family. This code is what binds you to the Triads, and in many ways, it's what defines who you are within it. Now picture yourself in this quiet world where your every movement is measured, every decision calculated. The Triad's code feels like a cloak draped over your shoulders, heavy but protective. You are no longer just an individual. You are a part of something greater. The cold, unyielding structure of the society becomes second nature, like the constant chill of winter. And as you walk through this world, there's an unspoken understanding between you and every other member. You know your place. You know your role. And that knowledge gives you a sense of purpose that is as solid and unshakable as the frozen ground beneath your feet. But there's always a tension in this world, isn't there? Even in the silence, there's an undercurrent of something more, something waiting just beneath the surface. The code, as rigid as it may seem, leaves little room for mistakes. Break it, and there are consequences. But in this world, consequences are never loud or dramatic. They are quiet, just like the Triads themselves. The consequences may come slowly like the winter thaw, but when they do, they are as inevitable and unstoppable as the turning of the seasons. And so in this quiet world where rules are followed without question and loyalty is absolute, you begin to understand that the Triads are more than just an organization. They are a force, a subtle, silent force that shapes everything around them. And as you settle into this story, you can't help but wonder, what happens when the cold, silent power of the Triads finally reaches its limit? What happens when the very rules that govern everything begin to crack? But for now, let's leave that question aside and continue to drift through the quiet, steady rhythm of the Triads world. After all, in a world like this, the answer might just be waiting to reveal itself. Now, let's shift to the heart of the Triad Society's operations. You're in the warmth of a secret meeting surrounded by trusted members. Outside, the snow continues to fall soft and gentle. Inside, the atmosphere is calm, but there's an undercurrent of purpose. This is where the real work happens, the kind that no one outside will ever see. The triads don't rush or force things. Everything is done methodically with great care, ensuring that nothing is ever noticed. You can almost feel the stillness in the room, a quiet, focused energy, as plans are drawn and decisions are made. The real power of the triad lies in how they work in the shadows. There are no loud celebrations, no extravagant displays, just quiet conversations and the occasional passing of information or small gestures that carry enormous weight. The triad operates best in the dead of night when the world is asleep and the streets are empty. It's a time of peace and stillness, the perfect environment for quiet operations to unfold. Picture the snow gently falling outside the world, hushed and unaware of the quiet power moving just beneath the surface. This is the triad's world, the world of subtlety, where every step is calculated, every decision made with precision. And it's all happening while the rest of the world sleeps. As the meeting unfolds in the warmth of the room, you can feel the calmness settling in, but there's something deeper at play. It's not the kind of calmness that comes from a peaceful night or the quiet of winter. No, this is the calmness of a well-oiled machine operating quietly, but with incredible precision. Every member around the table is part of this intricate dance, each move deliberate, each word measured. There's no room for mistakes here. Everything is planned out with care, with the understanding that each decision ripples out, affecting the larger network in ways no one will ever see. Outside, the snow continues to fall in a gentle cascade, blanketing the earth in a soft, unbroken layer of white. But inside, everything is sharp and focused, like the calm before the storm. The triads don't need to act with haste or force. Their power lies in their ability to remain unseen, to act with subtlety. In the flickering light of the room, the conversations are low, almost whispered, but the weight of the words lingers in the air. Every decision made, every piece of information passed, carries immense weight, though it's done in such a way that no one outside the room would ever notice. There's something mesmerizing about the way they move through the shadows. The triads operate in a way that seems so effortless, yet beneath it all, it's clear that each action is calculated to perfection. No one is wasting energy. Everything is efficient, like the quiet rhythm of the snowfall, outside unhurried, unbothered, and yet all encompassing. Imagine the world outside where the streets are empty, the houses are quiet, and the world seems to be at rest. But within these walls, in the stillness of night, the real work begins. It's a time when the world is asleep, unaware of the quiet power that's shaping events, moving things behind the scenes. The Triads thrive in this peace, in this stillness, because it's in this environment where they can truly operate. No distractions, no interruptions, just quiet, focused energy. As you sit in this room, you start to understand the beauty of it all. It's not about the grand gestures or the flashy moves. It's about precision, patience, and control. Each conversation, each gesture, no matter how small, is part of a larger plan. And it's all happening while the rest of the world sleeps unaware of the subtle but powerful forces moving beneath the surface. This is the Triads world, a world of quiet power where nothing is left to chance, where every action is deliberate and meaningful. The Triads understand something that most don't. That power doesn't need to be loud to be effective. Sometimes the quietest movements can make the biggest impact. And as the snow continues to fall outside, you can almost feel the weight of it all. How everything is connected. How every decision made in this quiet room has the potential to change everything. And as the snow continues to fall outside, let's reflect on the real work of the Triad Society. In these secret meetings, where the air is thick with quiet determination, everything is orchestrated with the calm of winter. The Triads don't need to make a lot of noise to get things done. They understand that power doesn't come from shouting or showing off. It comes from being patient, watching, and waiting for the right moment. The real work of the Triads happens in those quiet, unseen moments. It's in the whispered conversations, the slow-moving decisions, and the way every action is carried out with great care. Imagine the snowflakes gently falling outside one after another, silent and unhurried. That's how the Triads operate, one quiet decision after another, until everything falls into place. In the stillness of winter, there's no rush, no need for haste. The Triads understand this better than anyone. And just like the snow, which blankets everything in its own time, the Triads move steadily, leaving no trace, but shaping everything around them. As the snow continues to drift gently outside, you can almost feel the rhythm of it, a quiet, steady dance of nature. And in the same way, the triads operate with a calm precision, taking their time, never hurried, never frantic. There's a peace in the way they work, a quiet assurance that in time, everything will come to fruition. In their world, nothing is rushed. No decision is ever made hastily. Every movement is considered, every word weighed before it's spoken. It's like the way the snowflakes fall one by one without a sound, each small action adding up to something much larger. Think about how you would feel in this world where everything moves at its own pace with no need to force anything. The triads have learned that the most powerful actions are those that don't need to be seen. They don't need to shout to be heard, nor do they need to flaunt their power. Instead, they wait, they observe, they move when the time is right. And like the snow that accumulates unnoticed over days, they quietly build their influence layer by layer until the world is shaped by their unseen hands. The beauty of this system lies in its simplicity. The triads don't create chaos, they create calm. It's a kind of power that exists beneath the surface, subtle but profound. They don't need to force their will on the world. Instead, they understand that influence grows in the spaces between, in the silent moments where decisions are made and where everything aligns without anyone realizing it. Imagine, as you listen to this, that you are part of this quiet world. You are moving with the rhythm of winter, a constant but unhurried force, shaping everything around you without needing to announce your presence. In this world, you are not rushed. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. The triads understand that the real work doesn't come from the loud actions, it comes from the silent ones, the subtle ones, the moments no one notices until they see the results. And that's how the triads have built their empire, not with grand gestures or showy displays, but with quiet, deliberate moves. They are like the snow that covers everything without anyone noticing. They shape the world in ways that are impossible to trace, leaving no footprints behind, but leaving everything changed nonetheless. The power of the triads lies in their ability to wait, to move silently, and to let everything fall into place, just as the snow falls softly and slowly until it has covered everything in its path. You are nestled in the quiet of the night, the soft sound of the snow outside creating a gentle backdrop. Inside, you can feel the atmosphere of calm precision, much like the way the triads operate in their hidden world. It's not about loud displays or dramatic gestures. The triads aren't interested in drawing attention to themselves with violence or public acts. Instead, their power is built on subtlety and quiet operation. Much like the stillness of winter, where everything works in the background without fanfare, the triads run their criminal operations with the same quiet determination. They move in the shadows, running underground businesses, laundering money, and securing deals that no one sees. There are no flashing lights, no loud celebrations, no chaos. Everything is done with methodical care, ensuring that nothing ever disrupts the calm, allowing them to maintain control without ever needing to be noticed. Their activities are like the cold air outside, present, but barely felt until you realize just how much they influence everything around you. Imagine this world where everything operates just beneath the surface. You can feel the weight of it, knowing that the triads control vast networks, yet there's no need for noise. They are the invisible hands guiding the world, and they do so with a quiet precision that makes them nearly impossible to detect. As you settle deeper into this quiet world, imagine the steady rhythm with which the triads work. They are masters of patience, allowing everything to unfold at its own pace. They don't rush, they don't need to. Much like the slow fall of snowflakes, their influence spreads quietly, imperceptibly, until the world around them is shaped by their hand. Every operation they carry out is done with such care that it seems almost effortless. But underneath that calm lies a network of vast complexity, a web of connections that spans far and wide, touching everything from the smallest street corner to the highest halls of power. Their criminal activities aren't the dramatic scenes you might expect. There's no frantic rush, no sudden explosions of chaos. Instead, it's all done in the background, where the triads control everything with silent precision. They run businesses you might never know existed, funnel money through channels you wouldn't be able to trace, and secure deals in the shadows, all while the world around them sleeps. These quiet, calculated movements are what give the triads their power. They don't need to make noise because they know that true influence doesn't come from being loud. It comes from being present yet unseen. Imagine the city outside, covered in snow, the streets empty and silent. It's the perfect environment for the triads to operate. They are the cold wind that moves through the streets, felt but never seen. You might walk through the city and never know how deeply they have their fingers in everything around you, how they pull the strings of business, politics, and society, all without anyone ever noticing. They work in silence, leaving no trace but the consequences of their actions. And as you sit in the quiet of this story, you begin to understand how the triads thrive in the stillness. They don't disrupt the peace. They are the peace. Like the snow outside, their power is pervasive, yet gentle, steady, yet invisible. They don't need to make a show of their strength because their influence grows slowly, silently, until it is everywhere. And in this quiet, you can't help but feel the weight of their presence like the snow that blankets the earth, soft and unassuming, but powerful in its quiet domination. The triads are a force that works from the shadows, and in that shadow, they shape the world without fanfare, without attention, but with a steady, unyielding grip. You may never see them, but you can feel their presence everywhere, in every transaction, in every whisper, in every secret move made in the dark. They are always there, quietly, patiently changing the world, one silent step at a time. Now, picture yourself on one of those quiet winter nights, the world outside covered in snow, and everything feels at rest. But inside the secret meeting rooms of the triads, there's a different kind of energy, calm yet intense. No one raises their voice. No one hurries. The meetings are private, intimate affairs where everything is agreed upon without a word being wasted. There's no loud exchange of words or heated arguments. Instead, there's a soft handshake, a knowing nod, and sometimes just the quiet passing of a document or a small gesture that carries far more weight than anything said aloud. This is where the real decisions are made, the ones that shape the future of the Triad Society. It's subtle, and it's almost impossible to detect if you're not paying attention. In the quiet of these meetings, the triads pass information, make agreements, and decide on their next moves, all while the world outside sleeps. There's an ease to it, an unhurried nature, where every action is done with precision and care. And because everything is so subtle, so quiet, the triads have remained hidden for so long. No one ever suspects that beneath the surface of this calm, peaceful night, the wheels of power are quietly turning. As you picture yourself in this quiet, unassuming world, imagine how the triads move through their operations like shadows. The meeting room is small, dimly lit, with the soft glow of a single lamp casting long shadows across the table. The air is thick with concentration, but there's no rush, no tension. Each member knows their role, their place in the intricate dance of the triads, and each gesture, each movement is part of a larger plan. Everything they do is deliberate. A slight shift in posture, a quiet breath taken just before a document is passed, or the smallest nod can signal the most significant decision. You can almost feel the weight of these small acts as they hang in the air, suspended in time. This is how the Triads make their moves. It's all done with subtlety, and it's always done in silence. There's no need for grand speeches or public declarations. The real work is done in these quiet moments, in these intimate meetings where trust and loyalty are more valuable than any spoken word. Imagine the hush of the room, the stillness that settles over everything. You could almost hear the snowflakes outside as they land softly on the ground, creating a blanket of quiet. Inside, however, the wheels of influence are turning. Decisions are being made, and the next steps in the Triad's grand design are set into motion, all without a single loud word spoken. It's this ability to move in the background unnoticed that allows them to maintain control. The decisions made in this room are far-reaching, affecting not only the lives of those within the Triad Society, but the wider world around them. And as the night stretches on, the agreements are finalized, the plans set, and everything continues without fanfare. The Triads don't need to announce their success. It's built into the very fabric of how they operate. They work with quiet precision, and it's this very precision that makes them so formidable. They are the unseen hands that guide the world, shaping everything with the gentlest of touches, like the snow that falls gently, quietly, until everything is covered. As you settle deeper into the story, you start to understand the brilliance of this method. The Triads don't need to fight for attention. They don't need to create noise or chaos. Everything is done in the silence of these small moments, in these private rooms, where no one can hear the power shifting, but everyone can feel it. And so, the Triads continue to grow, to thrive their influence, expanding in the quiet, unseen spaces of the world. All the while, the snow outside continues to fall untouched and unnoticed as it has done for centuries. As you drift deeper into this world, imagine how the Triads plan their operations. In their world, there's no rush. There's no need to hurry, no desperate pushes to make things happen. Everything is thought out in detail, every move carefully considered, just like the way the snow falls slowly, gently, without ever being in a hurry. The Triads understand the value of patience. They know that sometimes the best strategy is simply to wait, to allow things to unfold in their own time. Think of it like watching snow fall. It doesn't rush to cover the ground, but eventually it blankets everything it touches. This is how the Triads approach their work, slowly, methodically, allowing each action to build on the last, until they have shaped everything around them without anyone realizing it. In this world, there's no need for loud moves or sudden gestures. The triads operate with the knowledge that power doesn't always come from action. Sometimes it comes from the absence of it. They move when the time is right and not a moment before. This is why, even though they are everywhere, they remain unnoticed. Their power grows quietly, like the snow covering the world outside until it's too late to stop them. As you continue to imagine this world, you begin to sense the calm authority with which the triads operate. There's an unmistakable rhythm to it, one that flows slowly, steadily, and silently. In the stillness of winter, you can almost hear the hush of their movements, each one deliberate, each one placing another layer on the quiet power they've built. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is forced. It's as if the triads understand that everything they need will come in time, like the steady, unbroken fall of snowflakes that blanket the earth. The world outside may seem to be moving at a faster pace, but in the triad world, time bends to their will. They know that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is wait. They don't chase opportunities. They don't force the outcome. They allow things to happen naturally, and when the moment is right, they act. But by then, everything has already fallen into place, just like the way the snow blankets the world without ever needing to hurry. Imagine being a part of this quiet, patient operation. You're not trying to get ahead, to rush toward a goal. You simply wait, observe, and trust in the process. And when it's time, you move with precision, knowing that every small action you take has a ripple effect, slowly shaping the course of things. There's a certain peace in it, a tranquility that comes from understanding that power doesn't have to be loud to be effective. The triad's strength lies not in what they do, but in what they don't do. They don't rush into action. They don't flaunt their moves, and they don't demand attention. Instead, they quietly maneuver behind the scenes, ensuring that everything unfolds exactly as they intend. It's like the snow falling softly, covering the ground, layer by layer, until it's too thick to ignore. By the time the world notices, the triad's influence has already spread so deeply that it can't be undone. And so in this quiet, unhurried world, the triads continue to grow. Their power builds gradually, methodically, until it is woven into the very fabric of society. It's a power that's invisible at first, but eventually it's everywhere. Like the snow which eventually covers everything in its path, the triad's influence spreads quietly but surely and by the time anyone realizes it, it's too late to stop them. As you drift further into this peaceful world, you can almost feel the slow, steady beat of the Triad's operations moving beneath the surface of everything around you. In this world where time is patient and power is built with subtlety, the Triads continue their work, quiet, invisible, and unstoppable. Now, as you settle further into this calm world, imagine how the Triad's influence slowly spreads. It's not the fast, overwhelming kind of power that takes over everything at once. No, their power is built over time, carefully and quietly. Like the snow that accumulates bit by bit, their influence grows gradually until one day it's everywhere. The Triads understand that every small decision, every quiet gesture is part of a larger plan. Each operation is like a single snowflake falling, and though one might seem insignificant together, they form something much larger. This is the essence of their strategy. They don't need to make their presence known. They just need to keep moving quietly, steadily. As you picture their world, you begin to understand that nothing is ever rushed. Every move is part of a larger puzzle, each step building on the last until everything falls into place. And when it does, the Triads are already there, like the silent snow that has already covered the world. They've moved in the background unnoticed, and now everything is shaped in their image. As you sink deeper into this world, the realization dawns on you. This isn't the kind of power that demands attention or seeks immediate gratification. The Triads operate in a way that's almost imperceptible, their influence like a slow river quietly carving its way through the landscape. They don't need to rush. They understand that true power doesn't come from forcing things to happen. It comes from letting them unfold naturally with patience and precision. Picture this: every seemingly small decision, every moment of silence, every quiet movement is part of a grand design. Much like the snow that builds up over days, creating a blanket so thick that it's impossible to ignore, the Triad's influence quietly weaves its way into the fabric of society. At first, it may seem like nothing at all, a slight shift here, a whisper there. But over time, these small actions accumulate, forming something larger than anyone could have predicted. Each step, though seemingly insignificant on its own, is part of a greater whole. As the snow falls outside each flake, joining the others, so too does the Triad's power grow. One small gesture at a time, one quiet decision after another, until it's everywhere. Their presence doesn't need to be declared or announced, because like the snow, it quietly blankets everything in its path. By the time anyone notices, it's already too late. The triads have moved in the background, shaping everything around them, guiding the world in ways no one can fully see or understand. In this world, nothing is rushed. The triads don't operate on impulse or urgency. They move steadily with purpose, allowing everything to come to fruition in its own time. There's a kind of beauty in this patience and understanding that everything they do, no matter how small, is part of something much bigger. It's like a puzzle, each piece fitting together, one after another, until the whole picture is revealed. The triads know that when the time comes, everything will fall into place perfectly, and their quiet work will be complete. Imagine living in this world where every action feels calculated and meaningful. The triads never act in haste. They wait for the right moment, knowing that true power is often built in the shadows unnoticed until it's too late for anyone to stop it. Like the snow, they move with a steady, silent grace, shaping the world around them until one day they've covered everything. Their influence is not a loud force. It is a quiet, steady presence that leaves its mark on everything shaping the world in ways that are almost impossible to trace. And so, in the stillness of winter, the triads continue their work. Every decision, every move, every quiet gesture is part of a larger plan. Their power doesn't need to be seen. It's felt in the way things shift, in the way the world quietly bends to their will. And in this quiet, you can almost hear the snow continue to fall, one flake at a time, until it has covered everything in its path, just as the triads have shaped everything around them. You are sitting by a window, looking out into the quiet night, the soft sound of snow falling outside, creating a peaceful backdrop. Inside, though, there's an entirely different world unfolding, a world of silence and precision. The triads don't operate like the typical criminal organizations you might expect. They don't need loud displays or grand gestures. Instead, they work in the shadows, quietly running underground businesses, laundering money, and securing silent deals that no one ever sees. Everything is done with such careful precision that it almost feels effortless. Imagine the way the snow falls softly but steadily, blanketing everything in its path without ever making a sound. That's how the triads work. They don't need to make noise to exert control. They let their power grow quietly in the background, and before anyone realizes it, they've already taken hold of everything. The triad's operations are smooth and calculated, like the stillness of winter, where everything works without fanfare and no one is the wiser. As you sit there, The quiet snowfall outside continues its rhythmic descent, offering a sense of calm that contrasts sharply with the controlled, deliberate actions of the triads. Inside the world is far from still, yet it moves without the flash of violence or overt power struggles. Everything is carefully orchestrated, methodical in its approach, as though time itself is moving slower, allowing every decision to be made with precision and thoughtfulness. In this world, power isn't announced with loud gestures or flashy shows of strength. Instead, it grows steadily, like the slow accumulation of snowflakes that gradually blanket the earth. The triads know that control doesn't come from rushing into things or forcing their will on the world. They understand that the most powerful forces are often the quietest. The decisions are made in hushed tones, often with nothing more than a soft exchange of glances or the quiet signing of a document. These actions, small and seemingly insignificant on their own, accumulate into something far more substantial. Imagine being part of this world where every move you make is deliberate and considered. There's a certain peace in knowing that nothing is rushed, that each step taken is part of a long, carefully laid out plan. You don't need to raise your voice to make your presence felt. Your influence comes from the subtlety of your actions, from the silent control you hold over those around you. It's a quiet world, but it's a world in which the triads have mastered their craft slowly but surely, becoming the invisible hand that guides events without anyone ever knowing they were there. It's like the snow outside. It's not loud or sudden, but it covers everything. The world may appear unchanged, but beneath that surface, everything is being shaped and influenced by the triads. They move in the background, silently controlling the flow of money, ensuring their businesses run smoothly, and making deals that no one else sees. The world continues on, unaware that the triads have already woven themselves into every part of it, pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And so, in this quiet, invisible way, the triads build their empire. They don't need to be seen to be powerful. Their influence spreads quietly but surely until one day it's too late for anyone to stop them. By the time the world realizes what's happening, the triads have already secured their place, their control, and their power. It's not through force or noise, but through patience, precision, and the quiet accumulation of influence over time. Just like the snow falling outside the triads shape everything around them without ever needing to announce their presence. Now, picture yourself in one of the triads' secret meetings. It's a quiet winter night. and outside, the world is covered in snow. The room is warm, the flicker of a single candle, casting soft shadows on the walls. There's no rushing here, no loud voices, just the quiet intensity of decisions being made. The meetings are intimate private affairs, each move calculated, each word carefully considered. There's no need for noise. A soft handshake, a knowing nod, and sometimes the quiet passing of a document are all it takes. These small actions carry far more weight than any grand declaration could. The real work is done here in the stillness, where everything is agreed upon with quiet understanding. No one outside the room can even imagine the magnitude of these exchanges because everything happens so subtly, so silently. This is how the triads remain hidden for so long, operating beneath the surface while the world outside sleeps. Nothing ever seems out of place, and yet everything is being shaped, directed, and influenced by the quiet power within these walls. As you settle deeper into the scene, you can feel the weight of the stillness surrounding you. The world outside is hushed under a thick blanket of snow, and inside the room feels as though it's been frozen in time. The warm glow of the candle flickers softly, casting long shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere of quiet concentration. The air is thick with the unspoken understanding that these decisions, though seemingly small and simple, are the ones that will shape the future. In this world, nothing is hurried. There's no rush to get things done, no pressure to speak loudly or act boldly. Instead, everything is done with care, with a quiet intensity that speaks volumes. The triads understand that true power doesn't come from noise or display. It comes from precision, from making every movement count. You can almost feel the weight of each gesture in the room, each look exchanged, each soft handshake. In this world, a nod of the head can change the course of events, and a quiet passing of a document can seal the fate of a deal. It's in these small, almost imperceptible moments that the triads make their mark. No one outside the room would ever guess what's happening. To the untrained eye, it's just another quiet meeting, just another exchange of glances. But to those involved, this is where the real power lies. The world outside remains oblivious, unaware of the quiet decisions being made that will affect so many. But inside the triads are quietly weaving their influence, shaping the world without anyone ever knowing. This is how the triads have managed to remain hidden for so long. They don't need to announce their presence. Their power is built on these silent moments, these invisible threads that stretch out in all directions. They understand that power doesn't need to be seen, it simply needs to be felt. And here in this quiet, warm room, surrounded by nothing but the sound of the soft crackling of the candle flame, everything is moving forward without anyone noticing. As you sit in the room watching these subtle exchanges unfold, you realize that the real strength of the triads lies not in their loud actions, but in their ability to remain unseen, to operate in the background, while everything else goes on as normal. Their influence spreads quietly, silently, and by the time anyone notices, it's already too late. They've shaped everything around them without ever making a sound. And so, in this stillness, these quiet decisions take shape, their power growing like the snow outside, unhurried, unannounced, but slowly, inevitably covering everything in its path. The triads don't need to show their power. They only need to wait for the right moment. And when that moment comes, everything will fall into place as if it had always been meant to be. Imagine a world where nothing is ever rushed, where everything happens slowly and carefully, like the snow falling gently through the night. The triads understand the true value of patience. They know that sometimes the best strategy is not to act at all. They take their time observing, waiting for the perfect moment. In their world, there's no frantic rush, no hurried actions. Everything is planned in meticulous detail, each move building on the last, with each moment carefully crafted. The triads are not in a hurry. They understand that in the end, power doesn't come from rushing to make things happen. It comes from waiting, from letting everything unfold in its own time. Like the snowflakes that fall gently one after another, without ever being hurried, the triad's operations grow gradually with quiet precision. They know that doing nothing at times is exactly what they need to do. By waiting for the right moment, they ensure that everything falls into place perfectly without needing to force it. As you immerse yourself further into this world, you begin to realize the wisdom in the triad's approach. In a world where everything moves so quickly, where people rush to make things happen, the triads choose a different path. They take the long view, knowing that time is their ally. They understand that true power doesn't come from hasty actions or desperate grabs for control. It comes from knowing when to act, and more importantly, when to wait. Picture the snow falling outside each flake, unique yet part of a greater whole. It doesn't fall all at once, nor does it rush to cover the ground. Instead, it falls gently one flake at a time until the world is blanketed in a peaceful, quiet layer of white. The Triads understand that their influence works in the same way. It's not about forcing events or rushing towards an outcome. It's about the quiet accumulation of small steps, each one leading to the next. Over time, these small, deliberate actions add up, and before anyone realizes it, the world has already been shaped by their hand. In the triad world, there's no need for noise. There's no need for grand gestures. The real power lies in the quiet moments, the pauses between actions, where decisions are made not out of haste, but out of careful consideration. Each move, each decision is thought through with meticulous care. They understand that sometimes doing nothing is the most powerful action of all. In the stillness, in the waiting, they allow things to unfold at their own pace, knowing that everything will align in due time. Imagine being part of this world where every action feels purposeful and deliberate. There's a sense of calm in knowing that you don't need to rush. You don't need to force things. Instead, you observe, you wait, and when the time is right, you move quietly, precisely, and without fanfare. It's a world where patience isn't just a virtue, it's a strategy. And in the end, it's this patience, this quiet determination that gives the triads their strength. The triads aren't concerned with immediate results. They know that real power is built slowly, steadily, and quietly. Like the snow that blankets the earth over time, their influence grows without being noticed until it's everywhere. And by the time anyone sees it, it's already too late to stop them. The triads are like the snow, unhurried, persistent, and inevitable. They wait for the perfect moment, and when it arrives, they move, shaping the world around them with quiet precision. As you sit in this calm, patient world, you understand that the triads have mastered the art of waiting. They know that sometimes the best thing to do is nothing at all. And in that stillness, in that quiet patience, they find their power slowly building until it envelops everything, just like the snow that quietly covers the world outside. As you imagine the world of the triads, you begin to see the power they quietly wield. It's not the kind of power that makes headlines, the kind that demands attention. No, this is the kind of power that grows slowly, steadily, like the accumulation of snow that blankets everything it touches. Each quiet decision, each subtle move is part of a larger plan, one that takes time to unfold. But when it does, it's too late to stop. The triads are like the snow that covers the world outside. At first, you might not notice it, but over time, the weight of their influence becomes undeniable. It starts small, like a single snowflake, but as the moments pass, it accumulates, building and shaping everything around them. By the time the world notices, the triads have already moved into position. Their influence is everywhere, shaping the environment without anyone realizing it. In this world, the triads don't need to act urgently. They know that the most powerful things often happen when you take your time, when you let everything fall into place naturally. Just like the snow, which covers everything without ever rushing, the triad's power spreads quietly, shaping the world until one day everything is theirs. As you drift deeper into this world, you begin to feel the quiet inevitability of it all. The triads don't need to rush. They don't need to demand attention or force their will. Instead, they allow the world to unfold at its own pace, knowing that with each passing moment, they are gaining more ground quietly and steadily. The power they wield is not one that can be seen immediately, but it is one that over time becomes undeniable. Think of the snow once more. At first, it's just a few flakes, delicate and almost insignificant. But as time passes, those few flakes accumulate, covering the ground, the trees, the rooftops, until everything is blanketed in white. It's the same with the triads. Each small action, each quiet decision is like a single snowflake. Alone, it may seem inconsequential, but taken together, these actions build and build, creating a blanket of influence that no one can ignore. By the time the world notices the triads, they've already woven themselves into the very fabric of society. Their influence is felt everywhere, even in places where their name has never been spoken. They've moved into position quietly and methodically, like the snow falling over the world. You might walk through a city and never see them, but their presence is everywhere. They control the flow of money, the streets, the power that runs beneath the surface. You don't need to see them to feel their influence. It's just there, like the cold winter air that surrounds you, constant, pervasive, but never loud. The triads have learned that power doesn't need to be flashy. They don't need to create chaos to be effective. Instead, they let things fall into place naturally, trusting that in time, everything will align. Like the snow, which doesn't rush to cover the world, the triads let their power spread slowly, subtly, until there's no escaping it. In this world, everything happens at its own pace. The triads don't need to chase after power, they allow it to come to them. And when it does, it's not a sudden, overwhelming force. It's like the gentle blanket of snow, gradually covering everything until it's too late to stop. By the time anyone realizes what's happening, the triads have already taken control, shaping the world quietly and steadily until everything around them is exactly as they intended. You start to realize that the power of the triads isn't something that can be measured in loud displays or dramatic gestures. It's in the subtlety, in the quiet accumulation of influence, in the patience with which they wait for the right moment, just like the snow that quietly blankets the earth. The triad's influence spreads until one day it's everywhere, and by then it's too late to stop them. You sit back in the quiet of your space, the soft sound of snow falling outside offering a calming backdrop. But as you settle deeper into the world of the triads, you start to realize that even in this world of calm and precision, tensions exist. No organization, no matter how well ordered, is immune to internal struggles. The triads, with all their quiet power, are no exception. But instead of the dramatic outbursts or loud confrontations you might expect, these tensions are handled much differently. There are no shouting matches or public displays. Instead, the conflicts within the triads are subtle, almost imperceptible to the outside world. Whispered conversations in shadowed corners, silent stares across a room, and the smallest gestures that carry so much meaning. This is how the triads resolve their internal conflicts. It's a world of unspoken words, of emotions conveyed in the briefest of moments. And in this world, even the smallest fracture in trust can lead to a ripple effect that spreads through the organization. As you imagine it, you begin to understand the quiet intensity of the situation. Even a flicker of doubt or a hint of betrayal is enough to create a shift. But everything remains hidden beneath the surface. The power of the triads lies not only in their control over the world around them, but in their ability to manage the tensions within their own ranks without ever allowing it to become public. In the triads, everything is kept contained, controlled, and precise, just as it always has been. As you settle deeper into this world, you begin to feel the weight of these silent tensions lingering just below the surface. In this organization, every slight, every unspoken word carries immense significance. It's not about what is said, but what remains unsaid. The quiet glances exchanged, the subtle shift in body language, the way the atmosphere in the room changes without anyone speaking a word. These moments may seem insignificant, but within the triads they are anything but. They are the quiet signals that define relationships, loyalty, and ultimately power. The triads have mastered this art of subtlety. Every member understands that conflict doesn't always need to erupt in a dramatic way. The true power of the organization lies in how they handle these moments of strain. Rather than letting a disagreement fester into open rebellion, They resolve tensions in ways that no one outside the room will ever see. A brief look, a deliberate pause before responding, a barely perceptible gesture. It's all part of the unspoken communication that governs the triads. These quiet moments of conflict resolution are more effective than any loud confrontation could ever be. Imagine yourself within this world where everything is measured, everything is considered. You realize that within the triads, the key to maintaining peace and control is not to ignore the tensions, but to manage them carefully, like a delicate thread that could snap if pulled too tightly. And yet, despite the potential for discord, the triads continue to function with eerie precision. It's as if in this world of quiet conflict, they've found a way to thrive, not by eliminating tension, but by learning how to navigate it with grace. As you reflect on this, you see how the triads' strength lies not only in their outward control of the world, but also in their ability to maintain order within their own ranks. They don't allow internal struggles to spill over into public view. Every potential fracture is handled with the utmost care, allowing the organization to stay intact, to remain cohesive, and to continue growing quietly out of the sight of the world. Like the snow falling outside the triad's power, grows silently, steadily, unnoticed, until one day it is too widespread, too entrenched to be challenged. Even as these tensions simmer beneath the surface, they do not disrupt the outward appearance of calm. And in this stillness, the triads remain powerful. Their control, absolute, even in the face of small, quiet conflicts. It's a world where everything is contained, carefully managed, and where nothing, no matter how subtle, escapes their notice. The triads may seem calm on the outside, but underneath they are always moving, always watching, always in control. Now, think about the constant presence of law enforcement always just outside the triad's world. Much like the cold winds of winter that howl through the night, the police are ever present, trying to penetrate the quiet veil that the triads have carefully constructed. They know the triads exist, but they can never quite catch them. In this world, the triads are always one step ahead. They know how to blend into the background, how to move through society without ever drawing attention to themselves. The police may search for them, but the triads are experts in keeping their operations just beneath the surface, never allowing anything to seem out of the ordinary. Their activities happen in the shadows, where nothing stands out, where everything blends seamlessly into the mundane fabric of everyday life. As you imagine the triad's interactions with law enforcement, you can feel the calm confidence they exude. They don't panic. They don't scramble to cover their tracks. Instead, they remain patient, always anticipating the next move. They know that time is on their side, and the more they remain hidden, the more their influence quietly grows. The triads don't need to confront the police directly. They simply outlast them, letting the cold winds of pursuit blow right by them as they continue their quiet work unnoticed. As you reflect on this world, you begin to feel the delicate balance the triads maintain. They don't engage in direct confrontations with law enforcement. Instead, they remain like shadows slipping through the cracks of the system, unseen, untouched. It's not about being the loudest or the most visible. It's about being the most elusive. The triads have perfected the art of blending in, of moving just beneath the radar, like the way snow silently settles onto the earth, leaving no trace but an undeniable presence. In the quiet of their operations, they understand something that most don't power is not about standing out, but about staying hidden, staying calm, and letting the world pass by. The police may search, may investigate, but the triads know they are always one step ahead. They don't need to run, don't need to hide in fear. They simply continue their work, always patient, always anticipating the next move. They move with precision, never reacting impulsively, always calculating their steps, knowing that the longer they remain unnoticed, the more they strengthen their grip. Imagine the police constantly on the hunt, trying to track the triads, trying to make a breakthrough. But despite their efforts, the triads are already far ahead, always operating in ways that are too subtle, too carefully orchestrated to be detected. The world around them carries on oblivious to the fact that the triads are quietly running the show from the shadows. And as the police continue their pursuit, they find themselves forever chasing after something just out of reach, always in the background, never quite catching up. This is the genius of the triads. They don't need to confront law enforcement head on. They don't need to engage in open battles or make bold moves. Instead, they let time pass, letting the pursuit grow colder and colder until it fades into nothing. While the law scrambles to catch up, the triads remain steady and patient, knowing that their silence is their greatest weapon. In this world, the triads outlast their enemies simply by waiting, by remaining hidden, and by moving with such quiet, unhurried confidence that their influence spreads without anyone even realizing it. As the snow continues to fall outside, the triads continue their quiet work, always one step ahead, never in a rush. They are the cold wind that howls through the night, always present, but never caught an invisible force that quietly shapes the world around them. But the Triads' challenges don't end with the police. Outside their own walls, there are rival groups, other organizations vying for power, influence, and control. There are other forces at play, forces that would like nothing more than to see the Triads crumble. But again, the Triads are patient. They don't engage in loud battles, even when the pressure from outside intensifies. Imagine the quiet tension between the Triads and their rivals. The world outside may be filled with noise, with factions clashing for dominance, but the Triads remain calm and collected, moving with quiet precision. They know that their rivals will make their moves, but the Triads never rush to respond. Instead, they stay 2 steps ahead, watching from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike, or more often to simply outmaneuver their opponents without ever being seen. Much like the winter months that bring an eerie calm to the world, the Triads understand that sometimes the most powerful strategy is not to engage directly, but to wait, observe, and quietly adjust. They don't disrupt the peaceful facade they've built. Instead, they let their rivals exhaust themselves, knowing that their own quiet operations are more than enough to maintain control. In this world, it's not the loudest force that wins, but the most patient. As you imagine this world of silent conflict, you begin to see the Triads for what they truly are, not just an organization, but a quiet force that shapes the environment around them with subtlety and care. The rival groups may shout their intentions, may clash violently for power, but the Triads move with a calm, steady assurance that doesn't need to be seen to be effective. They know that in the long run, the loudest forces often burn themselves out, while the quieter, patient ones remain always watching, always adjusting, never rushing. The Triad strategy is not about confrontation. They don't need to prove their strength through battles or grand displays. Instead, they let their rivals exhaust themselves, fighting among themselves, while the Triads observe from the shadows. They remain unshaken, secure in the knowledge that the more their opponents fight, the more energy they waste, and the more control the Triads quietly gain. Imagine this peaceful world they've created, where nothing ever feels hurried, nothing ever feels desperate. Even when the pressure from their rivals grows, the Triads maintain their composure, knowing that each moment of patience brings them closer to their goal. They don't need to engage in loud, dramatic battles. They understand that power is built in the spaces between, in the quiet decisions that shape everything. They watch as their rivals wear themselves down, while the Triads remain untouched, always in control, always 2 steps ahead. It's like the winter months themselves, silent and unyielding. While the outside world may seem alive with noise and chaos, the Triads know that this noise is nothing more than a distraction. They don't get caught up in the fray. They simply wait, and in waiting, they gain more. They understand that the world moves in cycles, and just as winter follows fall, their time will come. The key is to remain calm, to keep adjusting behind the scenes, and to let the world around them play out. In this world, it's not the loudest or most aggressive force that triumphs. It's the one that knows when to act, when to stay still, and when to let everything unfold on its own. The Triads move with quiet precision, letting the rival groups fight for dominance all while they quietly maintain control, ensuring that their influence grows steadily, slowly, and without fanfare. As you reflect on this, you realize that the true strength of the Triads lies not in their ability to confront their enemies, but in their ability to wait. They are patient, calculated, and always one step ahead. Their rivals might clash. They might fight for the top, but the Triads know something far more important. The battle is won, not in the noise, but in the silence. And in this silence, they remain the true force to be reckoned with, shaping the world around them in ways their rivals can never see until it's too late. Now, as you sit back and let this world unfold, you begin to see the brilliance of the Triad strategy. They live in a world of calm, a world where everything is quiet, steady, and controlled. But even amidst the tensions, whether from internal conflicts or external pressures, they never let their facade crack. They are always aware of how they're perceived, and they understand that the key to maintaining their power lies in maintaining this peaceful exterior. Picture the snow falling softly outside, blanketing everything in a serene stillness. That's how the Triads maintain their grip on power, by moving through the world as if nothing is out of place. They don't need to make a scene. They don't need to cause chaos. They simply continue their quiet work, shaping the world around them with subtlety and care. As their rivals fight amongst themselves and the police continue their search, the Triads remain untouched, their peaceful facade intact. In this world where nothing is rushed and nothing is loud, the Triads continue to thrive. They've learned the art of patience, the art of subtlety, and the art of maintaining the illusion of peace, all while controlling everything in the background. Their influence is quiet, like the falling snow, but it is also constant, covering everything in its path until one day it's impossible to ignore. The Triads are always there, always present, and always moving quietly toward their goal, unseen but never unacknowledged. As you sit there wrapped in the calm of this world, the brilliance of the Triads' strategy becomes clearer. The more you reflect, the more you see that their true power lies in the quiet mastery of their surroundings. They don't need to dominate the spotlight. They don't need to create spectacle or chaos. They have learned to thrive in the stillness, to make their influence felt without ever needing to make noise. In this world, the triads are the silent architects of power, shaping everything around them without ever stepping into the light. Imagine the world outside where the snow continues to fall, gently covering everything with its serene layer of white. In the same way, the triads move through society, subtle, unnoticed, but ever present. Their actions are like the quiet snow drifting across the landscape, slowly but steadily shaping the environment. By maintaining the illusion of peace, they ensure that their grip on power remains unchallenged. The world may be chaotic with internal struggles and external pressures mounting around them, but the triad's calm exterior never cracks. They have learned that the most powerful thing they can do is to remain undisturbed, to let the world continue on its path, while they quietly control everything from behind the scenes. Their strength doesn't come from reacting to every threat or trying to silence every rival. It comes from their ability to remain unaffected by the chaos around them. They watch, they wait, and they act only when the time is right, moving with purpose, always calculated, always precise. And in this quiet control, they make their power felt. Like the snow that covers the earth so completely, the triad's influence grows slowly but surely until it becomes impossible to ignore. As their rivals fight, as law enforcement continues their pursuit, the triads simply continue on. They are untouched by the turmoil, maintaining their peaceful facade, their calm exterior, and letting the world play out around them. They know that the more their enemies rush and fight, the more they reveal themselves. Meanwhile, the triads remain steadfast in their quiet progress, steadily pushing forward, always in control, always unacknowledged until it's too late. In this world, nothing is rushed, nothing is loud. The triads have mastered the art of patience and subtlety, knowing that their true strength lies not in confrontation, but in control. Control over their own actions, control over how they are perceived, and control over everything that unfolds in their silent, steady march toward their goal. As you sit in the calm, you realize that the triad's power isn't just in what they do, it's in how they do it. Quietly, carefully, unseen, but never unacknowledged. And as the snow continues to fall outside, You begin to understand that the triads, like the snow, have shaped the world around them without ever making a sound. Their power, though invisible to many, is undeniable. It's always there in the background, quietly building, waiting for the moment when it's impossible to ignore. They are a constant presence moving through the world with quiet purpose, leaving their mark without ever having to shout. Imagine yourself sitting in the quiet of a room, the soft glow of light casting long shadows around you as you think about the leader of the triads. This is a person who doesn't need to raise their voice to be heard, who doesn't need to make grand gestures to show their power. The leader is calm, composed, and always in control. They are the still center of the storm, just as the cold winter night remains calm and undisturbed, yet exudes a quiet strength that cannot be ignored. In the triad world, the leader doesn't need to command attention. Their presence is enough. You can feel the weight of their authority, not in loud speeches or displays of power, but in the quiet way they move, the way they observe everything with a steady gaze. They are always thinking, always planning, always 2 steps ahead. And in their calm precision, they guide the triads, making decisions that ripple outward, shaping the future of the organization. There's power in their silence, in their patience, and in the careful, deliberate way they approach every challenge. The triad leader is like the winter itself, quiet still, and full of unspoken force. As you continue to imagine this world, you begin to feel the weight of the leader's presence more deeply. It's not the kind of presence that demands attention or admiration. Instead, it's the quiet authority that comes from knowing that everything is under control, even when nothing is being said. The leader doesn't need to be loud to be heard. Their mere presence commands respect, and that respect is earned through the calmness with which they handle every situation. You can almost feel the stillness of the room, the silence hanging in the air like a thick fog. Every movement, every gesture, no matter how small, carries purpose. You realize that the leader doesn't rush, doesn't flinch. They simply observe, listen, and act when the time is right. The calm is their strength, the stillness their power. It's in the quiet moments between decisions, the subtle pauses before a move is made, that the leader's true influence is felt. They are the steady hand guiding the triads, the one who keeps everything in balance, while the world outside churns in chaos. In this world, power is not about taking charge with loud commands or aggressive actions. It's about knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, when to move and when to wait. The leader understands that every moment of silence, Every calculated decision shapes the triad's future. They are not just making decisions, they are shaping the very foundation on which the triads stand. The calmness of the leader is reflected in everything they do. Their approach is deliberate, thoughtful, and precise. They take their time, ensuring that every choice they make is the right one. They know that rushing would only lead to mistakes. Just like the winter night, they remain undisturbed by the outside world. Their presence, a quiet but unyielding force that keeps the triads moving forward. You begin to realize that in the triad world, silence is not weakness, it's strength. The leader's quiet power is what holds the organization together, what keeps everything in motion without anyone ever noticing the effort behind it. In the stillness, the leader is always 2 steps ahead, anticipating the next move, controlling the flow of events with a calm, measured hand. As you picture the leader in this world of quiet precision, you understand that their power comes not from shouting or demanding attention, but from the ability to remain calm, to stay steady, and to act with purpose. The triads move through the world not with force, but with finesse, shaping everything around them. From the shadows, the leader, like the cold winter night, remains a constant, unshaken force that guides the triads through every challenge they face. Now, picture yourself as a new recruit to the triads. At first, you were just an ordinary person, maybe a bit unsure of what you were stepping into. Everything around you seems calm, even serene. But as you settle into this world, you begin to realize that there is something deeper beneath the surface, something that's not immediately apparent. The triads are not just an organization, they are a quiet, intricate system, one that requires you to think differently, act differently, and most importantly, be patient. In the beginning, it's hard to understand the cold, calculating nature of the triads. Why does everything happen in silence? Why are there no loud confrontations, no explosive displays of power? But as the days go by, you begin to learn the rules. This world is built on subtlety, on the unspoken exchange of gestures and quiet nods. Here, power doesn't come from shouting or forcing your way through. It comes from moving with the flow, understanding when to act and when to remain still. You start to realize that in the triad world, silence speaks louder than words, and patience is the greatest weapon. As you find your footing in this quiet world, you start to understand the unspoken language that governs everything within the triads. At first, it seems strange, this world where words are few, but actions speak volumes. The smallest gesture can carry immense weight. A look exchanged across a room, a soft nod in response to a question, the subtle way one person adjusts their posture. Each movement is deliberate, calculated, and meaningful. You quickly realize that silence is not just a preference, it's the very foundation of this world. The Triads have mastered the art of patience, and they know that real power comes not from rushing into action, but from waiting for the perfect moment. In this world, everything is measured, every step is considered, and every decision is made with care. You begin to feel the shift inside yourself, the slow realization that patience is not a weakness, but a form of strength, one that requires deep understanding, control, and restraint. In the beginning, you struggle with the quiet pace of things. You're used to a world where things are fast, where decisions are made quickly and loudly, and where power is often displayed through force or anger. But as the days go by, you start to adapt. You learn the rhythm of the triads, the way everything moves in slow, steady waves, like the ebb and flow of the tide. The silence becomes familiar, comforting even. It's a quiet, constant force that holds everything together, and you begin to see how powerful it really is. You start to notice the subtle ways that the triads shape the world around them. They don't need to fight battles or make public statements. Instead, they work from the shadows, guiding everything with soft but steady hands. You understand that in this world, every small action counts, and it's these seemingly insignificant moments, each quiet decision, that ultimately build the triad's power. And as you step deeper into the fold, you begin to appreciate the beauty of it. The triads have built something not on loud declarations or sudden bursts of force, but on a quiet, steady presence that gradually grows, gaining influence and control without ever needing to draw attention to itself. It's like the snow outside falling softly, building up layer by layer until the world is covered and it's too late to stop what has already been done. You start to see that in this world, it's not about being the loudest or the most aggressive. It's about knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act, and when to wait. As you become more attuned to the subtle rhythms of the triad world, you realize that patience isn't just a virtue. Here, it's the most powerful weapon they possess. And in that quiet, steady world, you begin to understand the true strength of the triads. As you become more deeply embedded in this world, you begin to notice the tensions that exist beneath the surface. But unlike the loud, violent confrontations you might expect, the conflicts within the triads are handled with a quiet grace. There are no heated arguments, no dramatic confrontations. Instead, the triads resolve their issues through subtle exchanges, whispers in dark rooms, brief glances across a table, or the shifting of alliances that no one talks about openly. It's a world where power struggles happen in the quiet moments when nothing is said, but everything is understood. You witness these quiet conflicts unfold, each one more intricate than the last. It's not about physical fights or public challenges. It's about strategy, patience, and understanding the right moment to act. The tension is always present, but it's never obvious. It's like the slow, deliberate pace of winter where everything happens in its own time. You realize that in this world, everything is part of a larger game, one where patience is just as important as action, and where every quiet decision carries weight. As you watch these subtle conflicts unfold, you begin to understand the true nature of power within the triads. It's not the power of violence or anger, it's the power of restraint. In this world, strength is measured by your ability to remain calm, to keep your emotions in check, and to navigate the intricate web of relationships and alliances with quiet precision. Every glance exchanged, every slight shift in tone carries a weight far greater than any public confrontation could ever have. You notice how these conflicts rarely escalate beyond a certain point. Instead of shouting matches or open feuds, everything is handled in hushed tones behind closed doors. A well timed word, a silent gesture, a carefully placed remark. These are the weapons in the Triad's arsenal. The true struggle happens in these quiet moments where nothing is said, but everything is understood. It's a delicate dance of power, a game where the slightest misstep can have far reaching consequences. And as you become more attuned to this unspoken world, you realize how everything is connected. Every action, no matter how small, has a ripple effect. A subtle shift in allegiance here, a silent nod of approval there, and suddenly the balance of power within the triads begins to change. But it's never immediate. It's always slow, deliberate, like the way snow accumulates over time, one flake at a time, until the entire landscape is transformed. You start to see how the triads manage to stay in control, not through force or loud declarations, but through the quiet manipulation of these intricate, subtle moments. Even though the tensions are always present, they are never obvious. They hide in the shadows where the real battles are fought. There are no loud victories or defeats, only quiet shifts that occur when you least expect them. The triads understand that the most powerful moments of conflict are those that happen in the silence, those that remain unnoticed by the outside world. They thrive in this environment, knowing that the true power lies not in what is seen, but in what is felt in the quiet spaces between actions. As you witness this ongoing game of subtle conflicts, you realize that it's not just about winning, it's about maintaining control without ever revealing the full extent of your influence. You begin to understand the value of patience and restraint, how the smallest decision made in silence can change the course of everything. In this world, it's not about being the loudest voice. It's about being the quietest, the most measured, the one who moves in the background, pulling the strings without ever needing to be noticed. The more you learn, the more you see how the triads operate with an almost eerie calm. Even in the midst of internal strife or external pressure, they remain composed, always waiting for the right moment to strike. And when that moment comes, it's never loud, never violent. It's as quiet and inevitable as the falling snow. And by the time anyone realizes what has happened, it's already too late. The triads have already reshaped the world, one small, silent decision at a time. As you sit back and reflect on the world of the triads, you begin to understand how everything works together. The leader with their calm precision, the new members learning to navigate this world of silence, and the subtle conflicts that arise all shape the triads into what they are. It's not just a criminal organization, it's a carefully crafted system, one built on patient strategy and the quiet accumulation of influence. Imagine how these quiet conflicts, these shifting alliances, all come together to create a force that moves through the world unnoticed. The triads don't need to raise their voices or create a scene. They shape everything with the quiet, steady precision of winter, making sure that nothing ever disrupts their plans. Even when tensions rise, they remain composed, knowing that everything will fall into place when the time is right. Their power is in their patience, their ability to stay calm and unshaken no matter what happens around them. And in the end, it's this quiet strength that allows the triads to remain in control, shaping the world around them while everyone else remains unaware of their influence. As you continue to reflect on the intricate world of the triads, it becomes clear that what truly sets them apart is their mastery of subtlety. They operate not with force, but with finesse, understanding that influence grows in the spaces between actions, in the moments of quiet calculation where others would rush. In this world, patience is the greatest form of power, and the triads have perfected the art of waiting for the right moment to act. Their strength lies in the ability to remain calm, even when the world around them might be spiraling with tension and conflict. You imagine how the Triad's influence stretches like an invisible web woven through every corner of society. On the surface, everything appears peaceful, even serene, like the untouched blanket of snow outside. But beneath that surface, every subtle shift, every quiet decision, every unspoken alliance contributes to the larger picture. The Triads have learned that nothing is ever truly random. Each moment, no matter how small, is part of a larger strategy, a quiet design that continues to unfold layer by layer until their influence is everywhere. In this world, even when others rise to challenge the Triads or attempt to disrupt their operations, they remain unshaken. The Triads don't feel the need to respond with aggression. Instead, they allow their opponents to play their hand, knowing that the louder their rivals become, the more they reveal themselves. The Triads simply wait, and when the time comes, they make their move not in haste, but with careful precision, ensuring that everything falls perfectly into place. By staying patient and composed, they continue to hold the upper hand, always several steps ahead. The more you understand this world, the more you see how the Triads move through life, like the changing seasons, quiet, inevitable, and unrelenting. They shape the world not through grand gestures, but through small, calculated actions, each one building on the last. Just as winter transforms the landscape without a sound, the Triads transform everything around them, leaving no trace of their work, but still leaving an undeniable mark. Their power, like the snow, is quiet and constant, and it shapes everything it touches. And so you come to realize that the true strength of the Triads lies in their ability to remain unnoticed. They are not the loudest voice in the room, nor the most obvious force. Instead, they are the ones who move in the background, silently pulling the strings, always waiting, always observing. They have learned the delicate balance of patience, and it's this patience that has allowed them to thrive for so long. No matter what happens around them, they remain in control, quietly shaping the world in ways that no one ever realizes until it's too late. As you sit quietly contemplating the world of the Triads, you begin to notice a shift. Much like the subtle change in the air that signals the end of winter, things in the Triad world are beginning to change. What was once strong, unyielding, and steady begins to show signs of wear. The Triads, despite their careful and patient operations, are not immune to the passage of time. The bonds that held them together start to loosen, and cracks begin to appear in the foundation. Members who once trusted each other implicitly now begin to doubt questioning loyalties and feeling the weight of years spent in silence. The alliances that once seemed unbreakable begin to unravel like snow melting under the first warmth of spring. What was once a seamless web of influence is now a tangled thread pulled tight by suspicion and weariness. As you observe this, you understand that even the most powerful organizations have their breaking point. The triads, despite all their control and precision, are not exempt from the gradual erosion of time. Slowly, the unity they once had begins to slip away, and with it, so does their strength. As you watch this gradual unraveling unfold, you feel the weight of the change in the air. It's subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but it's there, like the first signs of the thaw, when the ice starts to crack under the pressure of warmer days. The triads, once so tightly bound by trust and silence, begin to show the strain of time. What had been built with such careful precision is now slowly slipping through the cracks, and with each passing day, the once unbreakable bonds seem a little more fragile. Members who once shared everything now start to look over their shoulders. The quiet whispers, the secretive glances become more frequent as doubt and suspicion begin to creep in. It's like the snow slowly melting under the sun. Each drop, though small, signifies a much larger change. The unity that held the triads together is starting to erode, and with it, the power they so carefully maintained begins to fade. The once tightly woven threads of influence are now fraying, pulled apart by the very forces that had once kept them together: silence, loyalty, and trust. You feel the tension rise in the air, but still everything is handled with care. There are no loud confrontations or dramatic public breakdowns. Instead, the conflicts are dealt with quietly in hidden corners, away from prying eyes. Members leave one by one, not with anger or violence, but with a quiet acknowledgement that the organization they once believed in is no longer the same. The disintegration happens in whispers, in hushed tones, and in the subtle shifting of allegiances that no one talks about openly. The cracks grow, but they are hidden behind the same serene, composed exterior that the triads have always maintained. And as the weeks go by, you realize that the triads, despite their careful planning, are not immune to the passage of time. No organization can remain invincible forever. The slow erosion of their power, the shifting of loyalties, and the quiet departure of their most trusted members are all signs that even the most formidable forces must one day confront their fragility. The foundation, once so solid, is starting to crumble, and there's nothing that can stop it. In this quiet, almost melancholic moment, you understand that the triads, for all their quiet strength, are succumbing to the inevitable process of change. What was once so unshakable is now losing its grip, slipping away like the last remnants of winter, giving way to a new season. The world around the triads may not notice the change, but you feel it slow, steady, and irreversible. The triads are no longer the force they once were, and as their foundation crumbles, you begin to sense that their time has come to an end. The quiet power they once held is slowly fading, just like the last traces of snow melting away beneath the warming sun. And then, as the quiet shifts into something even more profound, you witness the inevitable end of the triads, not in a loud crash, but in the soft, gradual fading of something once mighty. There's no explosion, no public confrontation. The triads simply begin to fade away as quietly as they had come. One by one, the members leave, either driven by their own doubts or pulled away by the subtle forces of change. The organization drifts into the night like a snowstorm that has quietly passed. It's as though it was always meant to end this way, slowly, without fanfare, without anyone even noticing until the moment has passed. The world continues on, unaware of the silent unraveling taking place behind the scenes. You feel the weight of this quiet end as the triads dissolve into the quiet night, their power having faded as softly as the snow, melting at the arrival of spring. There are no loud goodbyes, no dramatic exits, just the soft, inevitable dissolution of what was once unshakable, leaving behind nothing but the faint traces of its existence. As you sit in the stillness, you begin to feel the weight of the triad's quiet departure. There's no loud crash, no dramatic announcement that their reign is over. Instead, it fades away slowly, unnoticed, like the last traces of snow dissolving under the first warmth of spring. The world outside continues oblivious to the change. The quiet, calculated movements that once held such power now drift into nothingness, and the triad's influence, once so pervasive, becomes little more than a memory. You feel the absence of their presence, almost like a subtle shift in the air. The triads were never meant to end with a bang. Their power, built on quiet manipulation, patience, and subtlety, was always destined to fade in the same way it had grown gradually, imperceptibly. Each member who leaves does so quietly, as if they are following an invisible path, stepping away from the life they once knew without causing a scene. There's no drama, no outbursts. Instead, they simply slip away leaving behind only the faintest trace of their time within the triad. And as the last of the triad's members fade into the night, you realize that the world is still moving, still carrying on as it always has. No one outside of this quiet world even notices the disappearance. The law enforcement that once hunted them, the rivals who once sought to topple their empire, all of them remain unaware of what's happened. The triads simply slip through the cracks, their power dissolving like the last remnants of winter. This slow, quiet disintegration is something you had never fully imagined. It's not the violent collapse of an empire, nor the fiery end of a mighty force. Instead, it's the kind of end that feels almost natural, like the ebbing of the tide or the fading of a storm. It's the slow retreat of something that had once been so constant, so unyielding, and yet in the end had no resistance against the flow of time. The Triad's empire is no more, but there is no need for loud mourning or celebration. The quiet withdrawal is their final act. In the absence of the Triads, there's an eerie peace. The power they once held, the quiet control they exercised over everything, is now a memory, like the lingering chill in the air after a long winter. The world they shaped, the alliances they formed, all slip away like forgotten whispers. The streets that once felt their influence now seem oddly empty, as if something important is missing, yet no one can quite place what it is. As you continue to reflect, you realize that the Triad's legacy won't be one of violence or loud victories, but of quiet, subtle manipulation. Even in their decline, they manage to slip away without a sound, their influence lingering in the background, unseen, but still present. The world may move on, but the Triad's touch is still there, woven into the fabric of everything they shaped. The absence of the Triads leaves a strange quiet behind one that feels both final and temporary. The story of their rise and fall, so deeply embedded in the quiet corners of the world, is now something that only a few remember. Their power, built on whispers, now rests in the silence they leave behind. But you understand that even in their passing, the Triads were never fully gone. Like the snow that melts away, leaving the earth softened beneath it, their influence will always remain quiet, unacknowledged, but still shaping everything in ways no one can fully see. You can almost hear the wind whispering through the empty streets, carrying with it the echoes of a time long past. The Triads may be gone, but their story, their legacy continues to move through the world like the faintest trace of snow, slowly fading into the background, yet leaving behind an indelible mark on everything it touched. The quiet power they held, subtle, patient, and persistent, has dissolved. But in its wake, the world is forever altered. The triads may be gone, but the stillness they leave behind will never fully disappear. And so, as you sit there in the quiet of this world, you understand that some things, no matter how quietly they fade, never truly vanish. The triads, in their calm, patient rise and fall, have left their mark on everything around them. They've shaped the world without ever raising their voices, and though they may be gone now, their influence lingers in the shadows, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. For in the world of the triads, everything moves with quiet precision, and even in their fading, they continue to shape the course of time. The story of the triads may have ended, but its quiet echoes will continue to reverberate for years to come. As you sit in the quiet of this world, reflecting on the rise and fall of the triads, you come to understand the true nature of their existence. The story of the triads is not one of loud triumphs or dramatic conflicts. It's a story of quiet power, of subtle manipulation, and of slow, inevitable change. You realize that even the strongest organizations can fade into silence. What once seemed unbreakable can be worn away piece by piece until there's nothing left but the faintest trace of its former self. Like winter, which eventually gives way to spring, the triads' time has passed, and with it, their power has melted away quietly and without much resistance. In the end, the triad story is a reminder of the transient nature of power. Even the most carefully constructed empires, built on patient strategy and subtlety, cannot last forever. But just as the snow melts and the world changes with the seasons, so too does the power of the triads fade into the background, leaving only memories and whispers behind. As you sit there, letting the stillness of the moment wash over you, you begin to feel the weight of the lesson embedded in the story of the triads. The rise and fall of the triads isn't just about the inevitable decay of power. It's about how power, when held quietly and subtly, can sometimes fade even more gracefully than it ever arrived. There were no explosions, no dramatic falls from grace. Instead, their power quietly dissolved layer by layer, like the soft melting of snow at the arrival of spring. The world continued on, just as it always does, unaware of the silent withdrawal of an empire once built in the shadows. You realize that the triad's strength was never in their ability to dominate. It was in their patience, in their ability to move quietly through the world, shaping everything around them with the gentlest of touches. The slow, steady approach that had defined their rise also marked the inevitability of their decline. Like the seasons changing their time came to an end, not with a bang, but with the quiet, unnoticed retreat into history. This quiet end holds a poignant truth. Even the most powerful organizations, those built on careful planning, subtlety, and long-term strategy, will eventually face their own decay. There's something humbling about it, something that speaks to the transient nature of power itself. The triads, with all their quiet control, were never meant to last forever. No empire can hold sway indefinitely. Time change and the shifting tides of influence will always take their toll. But just as the snow melts to give way to the warmth of spring, so too does the triad's influence fade, quietly slipping away as new forces emerge to take their place. You begin to understand that the triad's story serves as a reminder of how fleeting power can be, no matter how carefully it is crafted. Their story is not one of sudden failure or spectacular collapse. It's a story of quiet erosion, of forces working behind the scenes to slowly dismantle what had once been so formidable. And in that quiet decline, there is a certain dignity, a peaceful passing that feels almost inevitable, as if it was always meant to happen this way. Even as the triads fade into the background, their influence lingers. Just as the first snowfall of winter leaves an indelible mark on the world, the triad's time will be remembered in whispers, in stories passed down through generations. They may no longer hold the same power, but the legacy they leave behind is one of quiet dominance, of an empire that rose and fell without ever truly being noticed. The triads changed the world without anyone realizing it, and though they are gone now, they remain woven into the fabric of everything they touched. The world moves on, of course, and new forces rise to fill the vacuum left behind. The triads may no longer hold the same sway they once did, but their story, their rise, and their fall are etched into the history of this world. It's the way of all things in life. The rise, the reign, and the inevitable fade. Just as winter gives way to spring, so does the power of the triads give way to the forces that will shape the next chapter. And as you sit there reflecting on all of this, you realize that their quiet fall is a reminder of something much larger, the cyclical nature of power, of influence, and of history itself. The quiet end of the Triads is not a tragedy. It's simply the passing of time. Their power may have melted away like the snow, but it has left behind a world utterly changed by their presence. The quiet forces they once wielded have left their mark, not through loud violence or public confrontations, but through patient, unseen influence that shaped everything without ever needing to be noticed. As the world moves on, you can almost feel the soft echo of their influence still lingering in the background. Though the Triads are gone, their quiet power, their subtle ways continue to live on in the world they once shaped. Just like the snow that quietly blankets everything, their presence still lingers unnoticed, but undeniably present. The story of the Triads serves as a reminder that power is not always in the loudest moments. It's in the quiet, patient ways that things are shaped, moved, and ultimately left behind. And so, in the stillness of a cold winter night, you reflect on the Triads, how they rose, how they reigned, and how they faded, reminding you that even the greatest powers can fade quietly into the night, like a snowstorm that has passed, leaving behind nothing but the memory of its existence. Their legacy, though quiet and understated, will never truly be forgotten. As you reflect on all that has come before, you sense the peacefulness that comes with the Triad's departure. Their time in the world has come to an end, and just like the last snowflake falling silently from the sky, they vanish quietly into the night. The Triads have always operated in the shadows, and now, as their influence dissipates, they leave no loud mark, no grand announcement. There is a certain peace in this quiet ending, as if it was always meant to be this way. The world continues on, unaware of the slow but inevitable decline of a once powerful organization. The Triads, like the winter season, have had their time, and now make way for the new. Their departure isn't marked by violence or noise. It is simply the natural course of things. In this world, the Triads leave behind nothing but the stillness of a cold winter night, where their influence once held sway, but has now quietly faded away. You feel a sense of quiet reflection as the story of the Triads comes to a close. Their rise, their quiet reign, and their peaceful decline all are now part of the past. And as the last traces of snow melt away, you realize that the true power of the Triads wasn't in their ability to conquer or dominate, but in their ability to move through the world unnoticed, shaping everything with quiet, steady hands, until one day, when the time came, they quietly faded into the background, leaving behind only the echo of their once invisible influence. As you sit there, letting the stillness of the moment wash over you, you begin to feel the weight of the lesson embedded in the story of the Triads. The rise and fall of the Triads isn't just about the inevitable decay of power. It's about how power, when held quietly and subtly, can sometimes fade even more gracefully than it ever arrived. There were no explosions, no dramatic falls from grace. Instead, their power quietly dissolved layer by layer, like the soft melting of snow at the arrival of spring. The world continued on, just as it always does, unaware of the silent withdrawal of an empire once built in the shadows. You realize that the Triads' strength was never in their ability to dominate. It was in their patience, in their ability to move quietly through the world, shaping everything around them with the gentlest of touches. The slow, steady approach that had defined their rise also marked the inevitability of their decline. Like the seasons changing their time came to an end, not with a bang, but with the quiet, unnoticed retreat into history. This quiet end holds a poignant truth. Even the most powerful organizations, those built on careful planning, subtlety, and long-term strategy, will eventually face their own decay. There's something humbling about it, something that speaks to the transient nature of power itself. The Triads, with all their quiet control, were never meant to last forever. No empire can hold sway indefinitely. Time change and the shifting tides of influence will always take their toll. But just as the snow melts to give way to the warmth of spring, so too does the Triad's influence fade, quietly slipping away as new forces emerge to take their place. You begin to understand that the Triad story serves as a reminder of how fleeting power can be, no matter how carefully it is crafted. Their story is not one of sudden failure or spectacular collapse. It's a story of quiet erosion of forces working behind the scenes to slowly dismantle what had once been so formidable. And in that quiet decline, there is a certain dignity, a peaceful passing that feels almost inevitable, as if it was always meant to happen this way. Even as the Triads fade into the background, their influence lingers. Just as the first snowfall of winter leaves an indelible mark on the world, the Triads' time will be remembered in whispers, in stories passed down through generations. They may no longer hold the same power, but the legacy they leave behind is one of quiet dominance, of an empire that rose and fell without ever truly being noticed. The Triads changed the world without anyone realizing it. And though they are gone now, they remain woven into the fabric of everything they touched. The world moves on, of course, and new forces rise to fill the vacuum left behind. The triads may no longer hold the same sway they once did, but their story, their rise and their fall, are etched into the history of this world. It's the way of all things in life, the rise, the reign, and the inevitable fade. Just as winter gives way to spring, so does the power of the triads give way to the forces that will shape the next chapter. And as you sit there reflecting on all of this, you realize that their quiet fall is a reminder of something much larger: the cyclical nature of power, of influence, and of history itself. The quiet end of the triads is not a tragedy. It's simply the passing of time. Their power may have melted away like the snow, but it has left behind a world subtly changed by their presence. The quiet forces they once wielded have left their mark not through loud violence or public confrontations, but through patient, unseen influence that shaped everything without ever needing to be noticed. As the world moves on, you can almost feel the soft echo of their influence still lingering in the background. Though the triads are gone, their quiet power, their subtle ways continue to live on in the world they once shaped. Just like the snow that quietly blankets everything, their presence still lingers unnoticed, but undeniably present. The story of the triads serves as a reminder that power is not always in the loudest moments. It's in the quiet, patient ways that things are shaped, moved, and ultimately left behind. And so in the stillness of a cold winter night, you reflect on the triads, how they rose, how they reigned, and how they faded, reminding you that even the greatest powers can fade quietly into the night like a snowstorm that has passed, leaving behind nothing but the memory of its existence. Their legacy, though quiet and understated, will never truly be forgotten. As you sit in the silence reflecting on the passing of the triads, the stillness feels almost fitting. Their rise, their quiet dominance, and their eventual fall. Everything seems to have unfolded in perfect harmony with the natural order of things. There was no loud, chaotic collapse. There were no fierce battles for survival. Instead, the triads simply faded into the background as though they were always meant to. The snow had fallen. The world had been shaped by their influence, and now the snow was melting slowly, steadily, leaving behind only the faint traces of what had once been. The quiet end of the triads speaks to something universal: the passing of time. Just as winter inevitably gives way to spring, every reign, no matter how carefully constructed, must eventually come to an end. The triads knew this, And though their decline was slow and quiet, it was inevitable. They were a force built on patience, but even patience has its limits. The world shifts, new challenges emerge, and the cycle of power continues moving on to whatever comes next. As the triads fade into the distance, their influence lingers. Not in the overt way that most empires leave their mark, but in the subtle, almost imperceptible ways. You begin to realize that the triads shape the world not through loud acts of power, but through small, quiet gestures that built and maintained their influence. They moved through society like the changing seasons, never hurried, never forcing their will, but always present, always affecting everything around them in ways no one could see. The slow fade of the triads is not a tragedy, but a testament to the way in which power works quietly and imperceptibly. They didn't need to dominate the world through force. They simply needed to be patient, to let their influence grow in the shadows, and to move when the time was right. But as all things must, their time came to an end, and like the snow that melts away their power, slowly disappeared, leaving behind only the faintest memory of their existence. But even in their absence, the world they shaped remains. The triads may no longer control everything, but their influence has seeped into the very fabric of society. It's there in the way things are done quietly, in the unspoken alliances and the careful manipulations that continue long after they have gone. The triads may have faded, but their legacy lives on as silent and steady as the snow that falls unnoticed, yet all-encompassing. As you reflect on the story of the triads, you are reminded of the transient nature of all things. Even the most powerful, carefully constructed empires will eventually fade. But in their passing, they leave something behind. The triads are gone, but the quiet way in which they shaped the world will never be forgotten. Their story, though it ended in silence, will live on like the traces of snow that remain long after the storm has passed. Quiet, unacknowledged, but still there, subtly influencing everything it touched. And so as you sit back, wrapped in the stillness of the moment, you come to the end of the story of the triads. Their time has passed, quietly fading into the background, leaving behind only the echoes of their once invisible influence. The triads, with their calm and careful strategies, are no more. They've left behind a legacy built on subtlety, on whispered conversations, silent gestures, and slow, deliberate movements that shaped the world around them. They were never about loud displays of power, never about dramatic confrontations. Instead, their influence spread quietly like the snow that blankets the earth without anyone noticing until it's too late. The triads may no longer be present in the way they once were, but their story lingers quietly woven into the fabric of everything they touched. Just like the footprints left in the snow, their presence is still felt even as the world moves on. Their legacy is one of calm, of patience, and of power that doesn't need to be seen to be felt. It is in the silence of their departure that the story of the Triads finds its final resting place. As you reflect on their rise and fall, the Triads leave you with an important lesson. Power doesn't always need to be loud. It doesn't need to come with explosions or dramatic acts. Sometimes, the quietest forces, the ones that move silently in the background, have the most influence. The Triads may have faded into the night, but their story serves as a reminder that strength isn't always found in the loudest actions. It's often the smallest movements, the quietest decisions that carry the most weight. In this world where noise and chaos often dominate, the triads remind us that patience and subtlety are just as powerful. Their story is a quiet one, yet it resonates deeply. It's the kind of story that when you stop and think about it, you realize how much it shaped everything around you. And so, as the snow continues to fall, outside soft and constant, we are reminded that even in the quietest moments, there's a story to be told. Sometimes silence speaks louder than any words ever could. As the snowflakes gently fall outside, covering the earth with their soft touch, you feel a sense of calm wash over you. The triad story may have ended, but like the snow that melts into the earth, their influence remains quietly shaping the world in ways no one may ever fully understand. The world is still, and for now, there's peace. Take a deep breath, letting the quiet of the moment settle around you. Feel the weight of the day lift as the stillness wraps you in comfort like a soft blanket on a cold winter night. The story of the Triads, in all its quiet subtlety, is now at rest, and so are you. As the snow continues to fall and the night grows deeper, let yourself drift off into peaceful sleep, knowing that even in silence there's a story unfolding. Good night, and may you rest easy, carried by the quiet strength of the world around you.